We're now off to fan favorites, shout outs, and rants. Let's go with our same geographic disposition. So we'll start with Karen Woody, Karen Moore, Matt Kelly, Jonathan Marks, actually, Jonathan Armstrong, then Jonathan Marks, and I'll bat sixth today. So, Karen Woody, what do you have for us?
I've got a shout out and a rant. My shout out is because, as you just said, I'm the furthest west of all of us, which also means I happen to be situated in Indiana right now, for better for worse. And despite some of the worst, which is like a weekly tornado drill here, the positive is that the basketball team from this state has pushed us to a seventh game in the NBA Finals. So everyone here is yelling, yes, sirs, all week and all day. That's my shout out. My rant is about the Supreme Court because just this morning there are another pair of decisions that came down that increased the pressure, and really I think the drumbeat is very loud to just nearly do away with the administrative state as a whole. So there are two cases I think that to me seem like this is just Loper Bright over and over again. We had the case where I think it's McKesson that said that the district court has the ability to interpret the Federal Communication Commission's, basically the district court can override what the FCC's interpretation of the Telephone Consumer Protection Act says, and how they've interpreted that maybe seems very niche and sort of that's a weird one-off law, but this extrapolated more broadly again just belittles and sort of strikes against the authority and the expertise of agencies. Similarly, a different case that just came out today deals with the FDA and who has standing to sue. In this case, this had to do with the Family Smoking Prevention and Tobacco Controls Act that says anyone who is adversely affected by an FDA ruling can sue, and they allowed that. A broader scope of plaintiffs can sue as a result of today's decision. So again, it's just this sort of, again, like more and more attacks against the role of agencies and the expertise of the administrative state.
Karen Moore.
Yes, so I would like to shout out to the beleaguered generation of college graduates in the last couple of years who are really struggling to find jobs against all odds. And I will specify then again, my child who, for reasons unknown to me, fights to get minimum wage jobs in theaters, but is slowly launching a career in technical theater, including at the Phoenix Theater Company starting this August. So yay to them and to all of the League of Regional Theaters for doing their best. And to my child's partner, Ren, who is, again, beyond all reason, jumping through all the hoops to become an air traffic controller, which has got to be one of the worst jobs you can have at the moment, but so desperately needed. So shout out to Raven and Ren and to all of the 20 somethings who are working really hard to do tough jobs and having a tough time doing it.
All right. Matt Kelly, what you got for us today?
I have both a quick rave or rant, a shout out and a rant. I'm going to start with a shout out first to Netflix shareholders who this week voted out a board member of Netflix, Jay Hogue, who was, by all indications, a terrible no-show director, and they didn't like it, and they dumped him by almost a 3-1 margin, I think it was. Mr. Hogue is nominally the independent director, the lead independent director for Netflix. He has been on the board for 26 years. In my opinion, you're not an independent of anything if you're on the board for that long. He missed an estimated 75% of all board meetings, and he missed an estimated 50% of his own committee meetings. And good for them for dumping this guy who just basically was looking at this as a no-show job, I guess. I don't know. But actually, I wanted to shift to my rant is this new deal between Nippon Steel of Japan acquiring U.S. Steel here in the United States and the golden share that the Trump administration insisted upon to make this deal pass national security approval. This golden share will allow the president, whoever that might be, to appoint one member of the board to the new U.S. Steel subsidiary, and have veto control over 2 other board members for the US Steel subsidiary. And the president would also get veto control over things like, are we going to close a plant? Are we going to outsource any steel making capacity overseas and various other strategic operations like that? It's a corporate governance matter. This is not a good idea. We do not do it this way in the United States. I get it that other foreign countries like Brazil, I think, has a golden share in Embraer, whatnot. I would not hold Brazil up as the model of corporate governance that we would want to follow here in the United States. My immediate question was, these directors, the president is now going to get to a point. So do they qualify as independent? Do they get to sit on the audit committee? What if he stalks them all onto the nomination committee somehow, and then they bring in more cronies for the rest of the board? If we want to support steelmaking capacity in the United States, I'm okay with that idea. It's a national critical industry and we should support it. Then support it by giving US Steel contracts. Support it by not allowing Japan to buy out US Steel. Put your money where your mouth is, but don't put the voting control into the back pocket of the president, of any president, let alone this one who has a history of corruption as long as the day is long. It's just a bad idea. We should not do it, which clearly means we're going to do it more often for as many deals as catch Donald Trump's eye. And if you want to see where the game was given away, watch when Donald Trump was asked about the golden chair and what it means. What it means is that I have control. Any president, the president has control. I hope it's going to be me. But it's just about Donald Trump sticking his hands into every single pie and where he does not belong. This is not how we do it in the United States. We shouldn't start now.
Mr. Armstrong.
I'm preparing myself. We've had minor sports on this podcast before, hoops and rounders and some other US sports, but we haven't talked about cricket. So I think it's probably time we talked about a senior sport and a real proponent of cricket, Sir James Anderson. Now, fast bowlers obviously have a shorter career than pitchers who've only got to do that versus that. And so the average career of a fast bowler is 8 to 10 years at best. 5 to 70 games is generally regarded as a good career as a fast bowler. But Sir James, we call him Jimmy, took more than 704 wickets in international games. Now, unlike the World Series, we have international games where the rest of the world is also allowed to play. He was the oldest player to top the ICC rankings. He made his debut in 2003, and he's only just retired from international cricket. And what did he do? Did he hang up his boots and give in? No, he's returned to effectively base level cricket. He's scheduled to appear in Derby and in Blackpool. If you've not been there, go, make your mind up for yourself. And even at 41 years of age, he was the 7th best bowler in the world still, statistically. We have a short form format called T20. It's for people with attention deficit, or baseball fans, I guess. And he had a gap from T20 for 11 years, but he's gone back into this short form, most competitive form of the game. In his career, he's bowled over 40,000 deliveries at an international level. So my shout out is A, to a great sport, and B, to Jimmy Anderson.
Mr. Marks.
I got to contain myself. So that's awesome. I'm actually in a good mood today. I don't know why, but I'm actually in a good mood today. So while I'm usually ranting and raving, I'm not going to talk about Chipotle. I'm not going to talk about anything that's horrifying. I think last week I gave a shout out to the sort of the unknown professionals doing their work quietly. But I read something this week. Actually, I read 2 things this week. So I have 2 shout outs. One is I read this really fantastic book, and I encourage everybody out there to read this. It's called The Power of a Graceful Leader, and it's by Alexis Thompson. And it's Alexis, Alexsys Thompson. It's a phenomenal read. And anybody, all the things that we talk about, leaders and leadership and things like that, I think if you read this book, it'll kind of kind of bring everything together and add some new light to all of it. So I encourage everybody to really read it because it was something that really impacted me. I was able to get through it pretty quickly, and I thought it was really well done, and it really rings home to me. And then, sort of tantamount to that, after I was reading the book, I was reading this news story about Princess Kate and her time with the Scouts, and how she was supposed to only be there for a short period of time. And she wound up spending a lot of time with these Scouts. And these Scouts walked away feeling inspired and uplifted by her warmth and authenticity. And the reason that the story attracted to me is I actually sit on the board of the cancer support community here in the United States. And she was mentioning about her time in using nature and other things to cope with her cancer really kind of helped her get through that. She's always doing great things, and I think she's genuinely a good person based on what I read. Jonathan, you could tell me differently, but a real shout out to Princess Kate for all the things that she does, and the fact that she's a fighter and a cancer survivor. I think that's
Right.
just wonderful.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm going to shout out to 7 words. When in the course of human events. Those are the first 7 words of the Declaration of Independence. If not the most important document in the history of this country, certainly one of the most. Yesterday, I heard a presentation on the Declaration of Independence, which reminded me of how important it is. And this is the last Everything Compliance that will post before July 4th. So I'm going to shout out to the Declaration of Independence. I hope on July 4th, you'll take the opportunity to read the Declaration of Independence to see what this country was founded on, founded for. Has that dream materialized? Is the dream still alive? And think about what the Declaration of Independence means to you in 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, what a great episode. I think we're going to have to take up some documentation of board minutes on a separate episode.
Compliance Podcast Network. Start your mornings with daily compliance news, quick, sharp updates on the top compliance and ethics stories in under 5 minutes every morning in Compliance Podcast Network. Because compliance never sleeps. Need practical advice fast? Check out Compliance Tip of the Day, one actionable idea to level up your program. Short and sweet, every day on Compliance Podcast Network. Got 10 minutes? We've got the week's top 10 stories. 10 for 10 brings you the big compliance headlines. Fast, fun, and focused. Every Saturday on Compliance Podcast Network. And don't miss the Sunday Book Review, where compliance meets culture through must-read books and big ideas every Sunday in Compliance Podcast Network. Whether you're in the office, on a walk, or commuting, stay smart, stay ethical, stay tuned. Only on the Compliance Podcast Network, available wherever you listen to podcasts.